I woke up to the sound of chainsaws. Not a normal alarm in Crystal Gardens. Our fancy condo where the only noise is the occasional roar of Ferraris or the low hum of delivery drones. Still in my pajamas, I rushed to the window and froze. 3 guys were cutting down my 100-year-old maple, the very reason I picked this house just 2 months ago. "Hey, stop now!" I yelled, already racing down the stairs and across the perfectly manicured lawn. One of the workers looked at me with a confused expression. "We're just following orders, sir." "Orders from who? This is my property." At that moment, I saw Ashley Thompson coming over in her signature branded yoga outfit, phone in hand, recording everything. "Actually, that tree breaks 3 HOA rules," she explained with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's been logged on the condo app since yesterday." Before I could respond, Michael Harrison, our Homeowners Association president, joined us. His Tesla was parked just so it appeared in the background of Ashley's video. "Oh, you must be our software developer. Welcome officially to Crystal Gardens." His voice was smooth, but his cold eyes were reading every reaction I made. "That tree is a safety hazard. It was a unanimous decision by the board." "I never got any notice," I protested, showing my cell phone. "And there was no vote on the app." Harrison smiled. "Check again. The vote ended last night. All residents approved." Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to get more stories like this. A week after the tree incident, I got home from work to find my high-tech gazebo completely dismantled. The built-in sound system, the smart lights, everything was removed and piled on the lawn with a digital notice taped on it. "Structure not approved. Violation 457B." I logged into the condo app to file a complaint, only to be met with an automatic notification. "Your account has 3 pending violations. Access to complaints is temporarily suspended." The next morning, I received a private message from Ashley. "Maybe you should consider selling. I have buyers interested who wouldn't mind the accumulated violations and devaluation." Something was off. I started investigating. As a developer, checking out suspicious code was my specialty. I reviewed the condo app and found records of updates overnight with no proper documentation. The votes about my property were happening at impossible times, like 3:17 a.m. with 100% resident participation. The electronic notifications became daily. Automatic fines started getting deducted from my bank account linked to the condo fees. $250 for parking 7 centimeters off the designated line. $500 for excess decibels during a work call. $750 for negative visual impact after removing dead flowers from the garden. At the same time, my profile on Crystal Gardens' internal social network was flooded with comments. "Did you know he works for competitors of Clearview Tech?" Or, "I heard he was fired for a data leak?" Clearview Tech. The name popped up often in the digital minutes of HOA meetings. They were the company in charge of the condo's digital infrastructure, but also involved in municipal projects. A strange connection. One afternoon, while trying to understand the app's backup system, I found an encrypted folder called CG Expansion Phase 2. Using techniques I'd rather not detail, I managed to access documents stored in the cloud. Blueprints, contracts, transfers, all officially non-existent. "This isn't just about the board abusing power," explained Sarah Mitchell, sitting in her minimalist office. "We're talking about sophisticated real estate fraud." Sarah, a lawyer specializing in real estate law, was reviewing the digital documents I'd found and connecting them with the shady transactions. "Look at these electronic signatures. They're technically valid, but were obtained through hidden clauses in the digital contracts we all signed when installing the app." Her monitor displayed a complex diagram of companies that appeared to be independent, all linked to Harrison Developments, Michael's construction firm, and TechVance Holdings, the company owned by Ashley Thompson's husband. "The politician?" I asked. "Exactly. And here," Sarah pointed to one particularly concerning contract, "is the connection with Clearview Tech. They're not just providing technology. They're buying strategic properties through these fabricated violations. They're building a secret data center," whispered Chuck Williams, a 67-year-old former auditor who lived in the house next door. Gathered in his soundproof basement, we were reviewing the blueprints he helped decode. "The violations are just the tip of the iceberg," he continued. "The goal is to force the sale of specific homes, creating the perfect perimeter for the project." The scheme was both brilliant and terrifying. Ashley's husband's cryptocurrency operations needed heavy processing power, while Harrison's company needed to legitimize huge financial movements. The solution? A data center disguised as a community infrastructure improvement. "That explains the late-night excavations," I commented, remembering the work that always started right after midnight. And the power fluctuations, added Chuck. They're testing the system. Sarah was furiously typing on her laptop. I found something. Look at this blockchain. Every forced real estate transaction lines up with a spike in transfers to these offshore accounts tied to this address. The screen showed a sequence of numbers and letters. Michael Harrison's digital address. I knew they'd strike back as soon as they discovered our investigation, but I underestimated the sophistication and speed of their response. It began with small glitches in my smart home devices. My security system would trigger false alarms at 3 a.m. The smart thermostat swung between extreme temperatures. The digital lock on the front door refused to recognize my fingerprint. Isolated coincidences, maybe, but together they formed a clear pattern. It's a targeted attack, I explained to Sarah and Chuck during our meeting in a cafe outside the condo, away from cameras and microphones. Someone's exploiting vulnerabilities in Crystal Garden's smart home network. Are you sure you're not just being paranoid? Sarah asked, worry evident on her face. I showed her my phone. On the screen was a notification from the condo app. Security alert. Suspicious activity detected on devices registered to residence number 42. They know what we're doing and are marking me as a threat, I explained, pointing to another alert that had just come in. Violation alert. Unauthorized access to community systems. Initial fine, $2,500. Chuck shook his head. It's no coincidence. I saw the same pattern when I audited corporate intimidation cases in the financial sector. 3 days later, the intimidation escalated. I woke up to an environmental inspector at my door, accompanied by Michael Harrison and 2 condo security guards. We've received anonymous reports of irregular disposal of toxic electronic waste, explained the inspector as he checked his tablet. We have a warrant to inspect your premises. Harrison smiled that calculated smile. Crystal Gardens takes our environmental responsibility very seriously. I hope you understand our position. The inspection lasted 4 hours. They turned over every corner of my house, photographed my work equipment, and took soil samples from my garden. Of course, they found nothing, but the damage was done. Even before they finished, I was getting notifications from neighbors on the condo app, expressing concern over my suspicious activity. That night, Ashley Thompson posted a video on her verified account, living in fear at Crystal Gardens. Without naming me directly, but with strategic shots of my house in the background, she talked about dangerous elements that threatened the harmony of our exclusive community. The next morning, I received a subpoena to appear in court for cyber vandalism against the condo's digital infrastructure. The evidence? Fabricated logs showing hacking attempts coming from my IP address. At the same time, the financial pressures ramped up. My bank account started logging automatic fines that got crazier by the day. $3,000 for interfering with community equipment, $5,000 for violating the HOA's intellectual property, $7,500 for threatening the data infrastructure. They're trying to force me to sell, I explained to Sarah during an encrypted call. The fines already add up to more than my down payment. That's exactly the pattern we've seen in other properties, she confirmed. First the small violations, then the more serious charges, and then the financial pressure until the resident gives up. An email arrived from Ashley Thompson's real estate agency. Final offer for immediate acquisition, 35% below market value, with all legal and financial issues waived. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, I commented to Chuck while we examined the offer in his secure basement. They think I'm backed into a corner. It's because they still don't know what we've got, he replied, showing a folder of physical documents. While they were busy intimidating you digitally, I was busy following the money the old-fashioned way. What Chuck revealed was stunning. Receipts from payments to city inspectors, contracts for consultancy with public officials, and most importantly, a detailed record of properties already acquired through tactics similar to those used against me. They all form a perfect perimeter, observed Sarah as she marked the addresses on a map, exactly as predicted in the blueprints for the data center. We need official help, I finally decided. This conspiracy is bigger than what we can handle on our own. Your case isn't unique, Mr. Morrison, explained Detective Emily Rodriguez from the Financial Crimes Division as she organized documents on her desk. We've been tracking similar patterns in luxury condos across the state. We were in the specialized precinct, in a soundproof room with signal-blocking devices on the walls. Sarah sat on my side, Chuck on the other, all of us relieved to finally have official support. The hard part has been connecting the dots, Rodriguez continued. The operations are sophisticated, using state-of-the-art technology to mask the illegal activities. That's why they were able to get so far without being caught, I commented. They use the condo's digital infrastructure as a cover. Rodriguez agreed, pulling up more files on her computer. What you discovered lines up perfectly with our ongoing investigation. But you two have something we didn't. Concrete evidence connecting Harrison Developments, TechVance Holdings, and Clearview Tech. Chuck extended his folder of documents. I have physical records of transactions that don't show up in any digital database. Cash payments, undeclared transfers, property purchases made through shell companies. And I have the modified digital contracts, I added, handing over an encrypted drive, including the source code of the condo app with functions for vote manipulation and automatic violation generation. Detective Rodriguez was examining the materials with growing interest when the door opened. A woman in an immaculate suit entered, her FBI badge briefly visible under her blazer. Special Agent Samantha Cooper, she introduced herself, extending her hand. From the FBI Cybercrimes Division. We've been following your case with particular interest, Mr. Morrison. FBI? Sarah seemed surprised. Has the case escalated to federal jurisdiction? Actually, we've been investigating Michael Harrison and his associates for over a year, explained Cooper, opening her laptop. But from a different angle. The screen displayed a complex diagram of connections between several companies, financial transactions, and real estate projects. What you all identified as a secret data center is just one piece of a much larger operation, Cooper continued. Harrison and Ashley Thompson's husband, Congressman James Thompson, are involved in a money laundering network that spreads across multiple states. Using cryptocurrencies, I chimed in, as the pieces began to fit together in my mind. Exactly. The strategic properties in Crystal Gardens are just a node in that network. The data center would be used for mining cryptocurrencies and processing shady financial transactions, all disguised as community infrastructure. Over the next 6 hours, we shared every piece of information we had gathered. Chuck detailed the suspicious financial transactions. Sarah explained the contractual manipulations and real estate law violations. I demonstrated how the condo app was used to manipulate votes and generate fake violations. This is what we needed, stated Cooper, organizing the evidence. The link that connects local manipulation to international financial operations. What's the next step? I asked. First, protection for all of you, replied Rodriguez. Harrison and his associates have already shown they're willing to use intimidation and aggressive tactics. Then we need more real-time evidence, Cooper continued. Our suspicions are strong, but to build an unassailable federal case, we need to catch them in the act. The annual HOA meeting, I immediately suggested. It's scheduled for next week, completely virtual via the condo app. That's when they'll formally approve the infrastructure improvement project that's really covering up the data center. Cooper and Rodriguez exchanged looks. Perfect, Cooper agreed. But we'll need complete access to the systems. I can do better than that, I replied, a plan already taking shape in my mind. I can create a backdoor in the app that will let us monitor the whole operation in real time. For the next 2 weeks, we worked tirelessly, setting up the operation. Undercover federal agents got positioned in neighboring houses. Monitoring devices were strategically placed. Sarah prepared legal documentation for immediate intervention. And I, working with the FBI tech team, developed a modification for the condo app that wouldn't just monitor communications, but also take control when needed. Are all the agents in position? Cooper asked over the secure communicator on the night before the annual meeting. Teams are set, confirmed Rodriguez. Warrants are ready for immediate execution. Monitoring system operational, I added as I checked the codes one last time. Full access to all app communications and intervention capability when needed. Chuck, who had become our ground observer, reported, unusual activity at Harrison's house. Lots of people arriving for an unscheduled meeting. Do they suspect something? Sarah asked, worry in her voice. No, replied Cooper after checking her tablet. According to our surveillance, they're just finishing up the details of tomorrow's scheme. They have no idea what's coming. That night, I barely slept. After months of being intimidated and manipulated, we were finally about to turn the tables. But I knew Harrison and his crew wouldn't go down without a fight. They were powerful, well-connected, and had a lot to lose. Just before dawn, I got a message from Cooper. Movement detected. Clearview Tech's IT team is accessing the condo's central server. They're making last-minute changes to the meeting system. We were expecting that, I replied, activating my monitoring program. I'm tracking every line of code they're modifying. They're beefing up the automatic voting system. Let them continue, Cooper instructed. The more evidence we gather, the stronger our case will be. The annual HOA meeting was set for 7 p.m., exclusively through the condo app. At 6:30 p.m., more than 100 residents were already connected in the virtual waiting room. their digital avatars displayed on my computer screen. "Are all operating systems up?" Cooper asked over the communicator. "Everything's ready," I confirmed. "I'm monitoring every connection and have full access to the back end of the app." "Teams are set," reported Rodriguez, waiting for the go-ahead. Right on time at 7 p.m., Michael Harrison started the broadcast. His flawlessly rendered avatar appeared in the center of the screen, with Ashley Thompson and 5 other board members virtually flanking him. "Welcome to Crystal Gardens' annual meeting," began Harrison, his voice artificially enhanced by the system. "We have an important agenda today, mainly focused on the technological future of our community." The first 20 minutes were dedicated to routine matters, carefully edited financial reports, updates on community amenities, and announcements of future events. Everything was meticulously orchestrated to present an exemplary condo management. "And now, we come to the main item on our agenda," announced Harrison, his avatar displaying an artificial smile. "The Digital Infrastructure Improvement Project." A 3-dimensional presentation appeared in the center of the virtual screen. What looked like a high-tech community center rotated slowly, showcasing sleek facades and modern shared spaces. "This revolutionary tech hub," Harrison continued, "will provide Crystal Gardens with next-generation connectivity, enhanced security systems, and smart communal spaces for all residents." What it didn't show, of course, was the true function of the building, a massive data center for cryptocurrency operations and processing shady financial transactions. "The investment will be substantial," Harrison went on. "But thanks to our partnership with Clearview Tech and the support from Congressman Thompson's office, we secured preferential funding." "That's a lie," I whispered over the communicator. "The money's coming directly from their offshore accounts." "Keep monitoring," Cooper instructed. "We need them to reach the voting part." Ashley Thompson took over the presentation. "To accommodate this essential improvement, we'll need to acquire some properties in strategic locations," she explained as a map highlighted several homes, including mine. "Fortunately," she continued with a calculated smile, "we've already secured most of these properties through voluntary acquisitions." The emphasis on voluntary was almost laughable, given the intimidation tactics they'd used. "For the few remaining properties," Harrison resumed control, "we'll need community approval to enforce our condo eminent domain clause, as stipulated in Section 47.3 of our digital contract." "Now, Cooper," I signaled. "They're starting the fraudulent voting module. Proceed," she authorized. With a few quick commands, I activated our intervention program. The voting system froze momentarily before coming back online, now under our control. "Before we proceed with the vote," announced Harrison, oblivious to our interference, "I'd like to emphasize that this project represents the future of Crystal Gardens, and already has preliminary approval from 89% of residents." That was my cue. I typed the final command and took over the broadcast. All participants' screens flickered briefly, and then a new image appeared. The FBI badge followed by Agent Cooper's face. "Good evening, residents of Crystal Gardens," she formally announced. "I am Special Agent Samantha Cooper from the FBI. This meeting is now part of an ongoing federal investigation into real estate fraud, money laundering, and corruption." Digital chaos erupted immediately. Dozens of messages flooded the chat. Harrison's avatar froze, his digital face stuck in an expression of shock. "Michael Harrison, Ashley Thompson, and all other HOA board members," continued Cooper, "you are under investigation for multiple federal law violations. Agents are currently executing search and seizure warrants at your residences and offices." The condo's security cameras, now under our control, showed FBI agents entering the suspects' homes in real time. Harrison tried to disconnect from the meeting, but our program kept all targeted users locked on the system. "To all residents," Cooper went on, "this operation is aimed at dismantling a criminal scheme that victimized every one of you. Your contracts were manipulated, your votes forged, and your money diverted to finance illegal operations." A series of documents began to appear on screen. Fraudulent contracts, shady financial transfers, and the real blueprint for the data center. The supposed community hub was really an installation for cryptocurrency mining and processing illegal transactions, explained Cooper. "Funded by your money and operated through shell companies." At that moment, Detective Rodriguez joined the broadcast. "We have proof that the violations reported against several residents were deliberately fabricated to force the sale of specific properties. All records have been preserved as evidence." "That's a lie!" Harrison's desperate voice finally erupted. "This is an illegal takeover carried out by a disgruntled resident with a vendetta." "On the contrary, Mr. Harrison," Cooper replied calmly. This operation is the result of months of investigations conducted by multiple federal agencies, and it has just been broadcast live to all 342 residents of Crystal Gardens. Outside cameras showed Harrison being escorted out of his mansion by federal agents, while others confiscated computers and documents. To all residents, concluded Cooper, federal representatives will be in contact over the next few days to explain your rights and begin the compensation process. The condo management will be temporarily assumed by a court-appointed administrator. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to get more stories like this. 6 months later, I stood before a new Japanese maple planted exactly where the old one had been cut down. The symbol wasn't subtle, but I liked the idea that something new might grow from the ashes of the corruption that was Crystal Gardens. It'll take decades to reach the size of the old one, Chuck commented as he came over with 2 glasses of lemonade. The mild spring temperature made the garden particularly pleasant. Plenty of time to build something better here, I replied as I accepted the drink. The transformation of Crystal Gardens over the past few months had been profound. With Harrison, Ashley, and their accomplices facing multiple federal charges, the condo underwent a complete restructuring. Congressman James Thompson, Ashley's husband, resigned in the midst of the scandal and now also faced corruption and money laundering charges. Clearview Tech had its government contracts suspended and was under investigation in 3 different states. More significant for the residents was the discovery of the extent of the fraud. Almost 70% of the fines and fees collected over the past 2 years had been siphoned off into personal accounts or used to fund the data center scheme. The digital evidence I collected was crucial to tracking every single cent. "Is Sarah on her way for the meeting?" Chuck asked as he sat down on the new garden bench. "Yes, along with the Transition Commission," I confirmed. "She's been working tirelessly on the new bylaws." Sarah Mitchell had become a local hero. Her legal expertise not only helped build the case against Harrison and his associates, but she was also guiding the complete overhaul of the condo's governance. "I never thought I'd see so many neighbors engaged in community meetings," Chuck remarked with a smile. It was true. The collective trauma had brought the residents together in a way no fancy amenity ever could. Meetings were now held in person, with an optional live stream, but without exclusively digital votes. "Morrison!" a familiar voice called. It was Detective Rodriguez, walking along the stone path with an envelope in hand. "I've got news." Over the past few months, Rodriguez had become a constant presence in Crystal Gardens, overseeing the transition and gathering additional evidence as it emerged. "Harrison took the deal," she announced as she handed me the envelope. "He confessed to everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. That includes a detailed confession about how his fake violation system worked." I opened the envelope and found a copy of the official statement, and more importantly, a document outlining the financial compensation. "The court has ordered full restitution for all the victims," Rodriguez explained, "including the full value for properties bought through coercion, plus punitive damages." "And the properties?" I asked, thinking of the families who'd been forced out. "They will have first right of refusal to repurchase at the original price, if they wish to return," she answered. The judge was very clear about that. Sarah arrived soon after, accompanied by Agent Cooper and the new Transition Committee. Residents democratically elected to oversee the condo's restructuring. "We just got judicial approval for the new bylaws," announced Sarah, visibly pleased. "Crystal Gardens officially has a new governance structure with real checks and balances. And most importantly," added Cooper, "a completely transparent system for financial records. Every cent of the condo fees will be traceable by any resident." The meeting that followed in the new community pavilion, built where the data center was supposed to be, was as much a celebration as a planning session. Residents who barely knew each other before the scandal now worked together in committees, planned community events, and were genuinely building the kind of neighborhood that Crystal Gardens marketing had always promised, but never delivered. At the end of the afternoon, when most people had already left, I stayed in the garden watching the little maple. Cooper approached, holding a folder. "I wanted you to know that your work had an impact beyond just Crystal Gardens," she said. "We identified similar patterns in 6 other luxury condos across the country. Federal operations are underway as we speak." "It's hard to believe it all started with a tree," I mused. "It always starts with something that seems small," she replied. "Someone crossing the line, testing boundaries, seeing if there'd be any pushback." As the sun set over the condo, I reflected on everything that had happened since that morning filled with chainsaw sounds. The fight had been tough, sometimes frightening, but necessary. Crystal Gardens was finally becoming what it should be, Not just a collection of mansions with cutting-edge gadgets, but a true community where rules existed to protect everyone, not just to fatten someone's wallet. The little maple would slowly grow, bearing witness to this transformation year after year. And I'd be here to see it all happen, one page at a time, one community meeting at a time, building something that no fancy app or luxurious amenity could ever provide. Genuine trust among neighbors. Crystal Garden, I murmured to myself, finally free of the shadows. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to get more stories like this.